Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we are here today to talk The Warrior Prophet, chapters 5 through 8. So it's to the end of part 1. So anything up to part 2 we'll be discussing. So if you have not read past that, then don't listen. To go read it and then come back and listen. So we're here today again with Katerina and Daniel. Katerina, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Hi, I'm Katerina, and this is my second time reading The Warrior Prophet. And I'm excited that we finally got some action in this part.
Yeah.
And I'm Daniel, and I have read these books a couple times. And yeah, we did finally get some kind of action.
Yeah, I know when we started The Warrior Prophet, and both of you had said it's action packed, and like the first four chapters were pretty. You can tell things were building, and then from after this chapter, about halfway through chapter 5 or so, things really ramp up, and the gas pedal is all the way down to the ground. So um, yeah, to be perfectly honest, I was a little confused as to what was going on at first in the battles. I didn't really couldn't really follow like who was who and who was attacking who with all the different names. So it took me a minute to like, okay, who's getting killed and who's not getting killed here.
Yeah, I mean, if you manage to remember or recognize all the different lords that get name dropped in these four chapters, then kudos to you. Because even in my second read, I'm still like there's like the major lords, the big lords, the what those ones I can recognize now, but the minor nobles I don't even remember most of those making an appearance in this book or any other book in the series. So I'm not surprised you were confused.
Yeah, even insignificant names get called out. So I just like to think of it like an army contingency. You got all your different little groups, or like even in Game of Thrones, they would all like call on other cities to help them, their bannermen or whatever. So you got all your different banners around. It's just knowing which side which is on. That's the confusing bit here. And this war is not like done at the ground at all. It's all bird's eye view, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd imagine there was 200,000 people in this battle, maybe more. 100,000 of them, and more than 100,000 uh, Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think the Conrad, no, not the Conrians, the men under Sabon and Gothielk, they uh they had around 100,000. It was about half of the Holy War, I think.
I think it's the Taidani and the Galioth and the Shriel Knights.
Yes, and the Thunieri.
Wow,
Yeah, that's
impressive.
right. They were the ones that came last minute. They seem like the most formidable warriors. And I
Yeah,
guess there was also 12 sorcerers, which count as 1,000 more people each, at
Yeah,
least.
but on the Phantom side, right? The
It's just 12.
Norserai, yes, the Norserai, the Inrithi didn't bring any sorcerers with them, which is what almost cost them the battle.
The Scarlet Spires are still lagging behind, and at the end of this bit, it seems like that's kind of their goal now is to just stay lagging behind until they hit the destination.
I think that was kind of their intention, right? Is to kind of stand back and then come in at the last minute and clean up. Is kind of, or am I wrong? Or is that?
After this chapter, he basically says that he wants just all these, oh, what does he call them? Just basically religious. He wants all these religious fanatics to go and kill as many of the Sishwarim as they can, so when they face him, it can be annihilation. Because if he loses enough of his own school, he'll have like turned his school into a minor school just to defeat his enemy. and he can't have that. So he's got to save all his power till the end.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
glad I'm not
exactly
the.
right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's yeah, basically Eliezer decides that um it's better to save his strength and his people for the very end, so that they can attack the Gisharim at Shaima at full strength.
Or
That's his
maybe
But
plan.
originally
but
me.
His plan for now, anyways. All their plans seem to be changing pretty fluidly as we go.
yeah, but the reason they did not participate in the Battle of Mangera is just that they're so slow. They were still marching to Asgiliath, where Conphus and Proas were waiting for them.
Yeah.
And Sabon wouldn't have waited anyways. He wouldn't have went slow with them just to get there. He was just going for glory. And then right when all hope was lost, he did exactly what Kellis told him, and it saved them the battle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did like that.
he sacrificed the Shrill Knights.
And Sarsalis. He got Sarsalis just like he wanted to get Sarsalis. I
Until he
think,
got rezzed.
yeah, I think it said guy exploded in front of him, and the dagger flew from the guy through Sarsalis's neck, and he dropped face first into the ground. And
That's
then
a
the
really
bird.
stupid way to die.
And the coolest guy, his name was Yalgrata Shrankhammer. Do you guys just remember that name? It was a real random name, but he was just the most brutal guy in the whole war.
I don't remember. I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
I think he like cuts off a horse's head in a single blow, and he just like pushing people off their horses because he's so tall.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like that they just kind of go after the horses because that's probably what would happen, right? They would probably start killing horses and getting them off the, losing that advantage of, being mounted.
I don't know how many Sabon had, but he had a few. He went through a few horses that fight.
Yeah, Sabon calling for more horses is one of the funnier parts of the battle. Um, but I like the fact that they sort of they describe the differences between the Phantom and the Inrithi, or the Norserai in this case. The fact that the Phantom are maybe like more, they like rely a lot on their horses, and like very good horse riders and archers, and they can shoot arrows while riding, while the Norserai are much more, I guess they're have an advantage on the ground rather than maybe on the horses. And
Yeah, it seemed like they're used to fighting on just flat, open plains, kind of like the Sylvendi are. So they can shoot from riding their horse a lot better. And I think all of them were calling him like womanish for doing that. And then
Yeah.
they all just died for it. And then they decided it wasn't so womanish after all.
Yeah. It changed pretty fast. It was like a woman weapon or something, and then that, yeah, it didn't last too long. They changed
And
their tune.
then to the
yeah,
Sylvendi, everything they do is womanish. And they just think arrows are womanish.
the Phantom are a lot more flexible, I guess, or like more agile, whereas the Norserai are, they're kind of like rocks. Like if they just stand in a place, nothing, everything will break against them. But if they try to like move around, or um they're not very successful. So I feel like part of the reason they win, they managed to fight the Phantom is just by standing there, letting them break against their shields.
And then the couple times they almost lost were because they like thought they were breaking them, so they went to like chase them off, and then they got encircled and slaughtered. So if they held the line, they did good. But anytime they chased, it didn't go good.
Yeah, you would think that like Sabon would have some sense of strategy, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. Like he basically falls for their trap immediately, and then the Shrylanites have to have to make a charge to help them, to relieve them and help them return back to the line. It seems like
And
of all the people, like all the lords who marched out from Asgiliath, like Gotian, the commander of the Shrylanites, is the only one who can actually, like, who's actually like a capable commander.
Sabon just he only needs what he was told. God told him he was going to win. What kind of strategy do you need when God says you're going to win?
I feel like he kind of told himself that he was going to win. Like I feel like he only relies on God when it's convenient for him.
Yeah, he's definitely not religious. It doesn't seem like Proyas, anyways.
Yeah, kind of got the impression he was depending on numbers. That he was confident because of the numbers that he had, and not so much strategies like brute, force. Just
It
charge
was
until you get him.
based on a gamble that the Scaris was going to bring his people back and only fight in a couple cities, so they had more numbers, but they were wrong. And then that they wouldn't sacrifice any Sishwarim or bring any out until later when the real battles happened, which was also wrong. And I think
Yeah.
that they sent outriders, and the outriders all got killed, and Nair went and observed the battle scene. That was a pretty cool part.
Yeah, he plays detective there for a minute. Crime scene investigator.
Yeah, he's the original CSI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean he manages to convince Proas and the other lords that basically Scaras has stayed in Gedia, and his plan is essentially to split the Holy War into like several contingents so he can defeat each one like one by one, because he probably knows that if they all met in battle, then the Phantom would be outnumbered. But if he manages to keep them separated, then he probably has a greater chance of actually defeating them, or at least weakening them.
Yeah, he
Yep.
mentioned. I think it's Nor who mentions war is intellect. Or the notes I
Yeah.
have written down.
And then at the same time, the whole Holy War does have to split up because they can't like salvage on top of each other. There's not enough forage for 250,000 plus 250,000 from what it sounded like. 250,000 warriors and 250,000 camp followers at least. That's what Acadian said. So,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's like a migration. It's not an
I don't
army.
I don't know anytime that ever happens. I like reflect back onto that uh, Muslim holiday where they all go to the rock and it's just completely surrounded with what at least 100,000 people. But there's really no other time that we see that many people gathered together anymore.
For a common purpose. Yeah.
It's a
For
hazard.
yeah, trampling hazard. Yeah, the sorcerers showing up was, I thought that was really neat that they just kind of show up and everyone, it has a big impact when they just appear, and they're like then they each equal a few hundred or 100 men. So it was like killing hundreds of men when they killed the sorcerers.
they say one sorcerer's 1,000, but
1,000.
one sorcerer is probably more than 1,000. When they were talking about losses, it's because like I feel like they said the Scarlet Spires and the Sisharam both had like 120 members or right around there. So when you lose 12, that's like a high percentage of the entire population.
Yeah, I mean, and they take time to train, right? So it's a big investment for the schools. So to lose so many is really, it's a great loss. But I was kind of surprised that, like, yes, they call themselves the few, but I was still surprised how few they actually were. And the Scarlet Spires are supposed to be one of the largest schools, right?
Yeah.
So if they're around 100, 150 Scarlet Spires, then there are even fewer. The other schools have even fewer members.
Which in this world, I think that if you got 1,000 mages together, it might just be too much. Too much for the world. They're pretty powerful. So, and the
Yeah,
Tears of
and
God like stop them, but their magic can like use the earth to kill whatever has the Tears of God too. They just have to know that they have them.
There was a quote in here that I thought may be relevant later, but I'm hesitant to read it because I don't want to put you guys on the spot for spoilers. But on page 140 in my copy, anyway, the Topoi are like heights, places where one can see far, but where heights are built with mounds of stone and earth, Topoi are built with mounds of trauma and suffering. They are heights that let us see farther than this world, some say into the outside. Maybe not. I don't know. It struck me as
Well,
important. It may come into play later, but I may be wrong.
it's a really cool quote, and it's really crazy to think about, even like in our current world. That might be what like haunted places are, haunted houses, something similar, some kind of stain on the earth that affects it somehow from the outside, or maybe the underneath in some TV shows.
yeah, I mean, it gives you some context, or at least a semblance of an explanation for why the people who have camped out on the field of Mengera, why they're having all these nightmares or dreams, and why there are bones coming from underneath the earth. Um, and I mean, it tells you something about the history and about like the darkness of the history that surrounds this place. But what it actually, like, what it actually means, or what the outside is, I'm not even sure I know.
Okay.
And I don't think you're really supposed to know at this point. So it's something to keep at the back of your mind, but maybe don't worry about it too much yet.
It's it deeply confused Kellis, right? Because he's like still under the belief that what comes before determines what comes after always, and the fact that there's these bones washing up and people having crazy dreams seems to indicate something else. And he called those primary questions, but he can't focus on the primary questions. He's just got to try to own Holy War currently.
Yeah, and then I think towards the end of this section that we read, I forget, I think it might be chapter 8 or 7, he does mention something like, does what comes after determine what comes before? So,
It's the
Yeah.
first time he seemed confused all book, right?
you just start to question.
Yeah, there's a brief moment where he wonders if what he told Saban about sacrificing the Shrylanites, if that actually was some sort of a prophecy that he made unaware. Because he did tell him that he should sacrifice the knights to essentially to win the battle, without knowing that that was what someone was going to do, and that what was going to win him the battle. So there is this uncertainty about cause and effect and how it works in this world, and if Callus somehow maybe stands outside of it.
And I think uncertainty is like the enemy of the Dunyan. It's the Dunyan's one enemy if you think about it. They're just trying to be certain about everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Dunyan, or their goal is to approximate certainty as much as they can.
To illuminate all, so leave no uncertainty.
I
But
did like the
go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh, I was just say I did like the exchange that the Sarcellus 3.0 had with Callus. Is it 2.0 or 3.0? Because there was the original Sarcellus, and then so I don't know.
Definitely 2.1, we'll say,
2.1. Yeah.
because it's still a skin spy, but it's just a different one.
Yeah, I really did like that exchange they had.
And they played like a game called Gandoki, The Shadows. Sounded like a cool game.
Did it?
Kind of
I wa-
strange. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. That sounds like I don't know. He was Sarcellus enjoyed that a little bit too much. I think he enjoyed that game a little bit too much.
It was very telling for Kellis, though. He learned a lot in that one little game.
Yeah, and we I mean, we sort of knew that the skin spies get aroused, for the lack of a better word, by violence, or with causing and witnessing pain and violence. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to us, but it is something that Callus has observed and will probably use to his advantage from now on.
I think when I was reading these sections, I was thinking how we would discuss it, and Danielle and I have had a few times this week where we were trying. Was it coupling was the first one, right? We were talking about House of the Dragon, and then we talked about negative space. Was it bodily fluids? Is that what we decided on? So I was wondering what aroused would be the
Pearl was bad.
yeah. So yeah,
Maybe you should send me a dictionary of the words I'm allowed to use beforehand.
No,
No.
you can use whatever you want. It just we were trying to explain it in a not so explicit way, but it's a fun game. So I'm glad you tackled this one, Katerina. We needed a break from.
I'm happy to oblige.
And I think in that same battle, Kellis insinuates that Sarcellus 2.0 had told him everything about the endless hunger, and that they were watching Kellis, and they had used SMNet to watch Drusus Acamian too, and Sarcellus believes him, it seems like, and then decides that he should probably die because he knows too much. And Kellis was trying to walk the fine line between not killing, not looking weak, and not looking too powerful, until he realized that he was trying to kill him. Then he just won the game. And it said he kicked in his chest, and it was just cartilage. That's pretty weird, like a shark.
Yeah, before that exchange, I wondered if it was like a hive mind with the skin spies, if they shared information, but now we know they don't, or at least Sarcellus 2.1 didn't know what 2.0 did. So did learn a little bit there about skin spies, and I think Kellis mentions too that he he's able to, he's getting better at recognizing skin spies. I think he says he knows about a dozen that he's noticed, so they're not too rare.
And then by the end of that conversation, he had a rudimentary understanding of them, so he can use that to figure out how to control them. Because he would say things and see his eyes gloss over. He's seen his excitement, I guess, over war. There's another word.
Yeah. So,
Okay, I'll try not to think of too many synonyms. Man.
oh, yeah, we have fun. You can say what you want, but you can't say we don't have fun.
Oh, and there was two cool quotes about Sarsalis. One was, it had robbed him even of his death. No murder could be more total. Because Sarsalis is still out there, but he's just dead. His position is like, oh, the other one is strange that a man could be a position.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool quote. The fact that he is the original Sarcellus is dead, but no one knows that he is dead because he's been replaced by a doppelganger, essentially. And so like no one can mourn his death because to everyone else he's still alive. It's a pretty cool quote.
Kind
And
of made you sad, right? For Sarsalis, for the Sarsalis 1.0 at least.
he must have been so unimportant or insignificant that no one noticed him really disappearing. Like his personality disappearing.
Yeah, that's you.
I mean, that's the question. Like, to what extent are the skin spice able to replicate the original person's personality and behavioral quirks, and to what extent are they just a shell, just a body?
I feel like in the last book it talked about them kidnapping people and like deeply interrogating them and learning mannerisms, and the skin spy will take over once they like know of their past.
Hmm.
Once they've tortured them enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember too well, but they did take Gishruни's face.
Yeah.
So some violence or torture is involved, it seems.
Weren't these sorcerers wearing human skin, or am I misremembering?
The no god
No god.
and this rank
The Shrank. Yeah.
actually are almost a lot like the skin spies. They just love war more than they love other things. War is their favorite thing.
So speaking of quotes, there was one quote that made me laugh, which is always great. But on page 109 at the bottom of this edition, anyway, they looked oddly peaceful, like Enix snoozing in the sun after bathing. That was hilarious.
Yeah, the sometimes the descriptions are pretty funny. There was another one describing Comfus, and it was he says something, and this description goes, Comfus replied, speaking as he always did, as though intellectually filing his nails. I really like that one.
I thought one was funny where Nair was arguing with who was it? I don't remember what they. I think he argued with Pro.
Pro, yes.
No, he argued with Confus again, and he like won him in the argument. And then the people were like, "Time to add another scar to your arm." Like he just killed Confus in the argument. It was good.
So unfair. I mean, Comfus was right though. like basically the thing they argue about is that they Saban gets chosen as the, what do they call it, the battle celebrant, and everyone's like applauding, saying, yeah, like he won this battle, we won because of him. And then Confess is like, no, you idiots, like the fact you won was pure luck. You shouldn't have won. You should have been annihilated. How? And he's right. Like it's even, like, even Kellis, we hear, like, admits that the fact that they managed to survive, the fact that the Shrila Knights managed to remove the Kisharim from the battle so quickly, like that was all pure luck.
But then even Kellis is like, was that pure luck? In the end.
But it certainly wasn't for, it wasn't because of Saban's great strategic mind and planning and preparation for the battle, right?
Yeah, I think Kellis just called it a gamble to get rid of Sarsalis.
Yeah, and sacrifice some odds 100,000 people on the side.
That would be the second 100,000 people that got sacrificed. Ikaris sacrificed the first Vulgar Holy War.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Kellis is just like standing back, and it's all going the way I planned it. Just pulling strings. It's kind of the first time that he did seem like a robot, and we've talked about that before, but very cold and calculating.
Yeah, I
Or
think there's
rational,
there's
rather.
one there's one part where he basically compares his face or his facial expressions to that of Circellus. The fact that they both like imitating normal human expressions, but which do not in any way reflect their emotions. So yeah, you're right. He is in some ways a robot or a thing built for a certain purpose, just like the skin spice.
Sarsalis seemed to be more camouflage, the skin spice, more just camouflage their actions to look, just to get by and not look suspicious, where Kellis will use his facial expressions and just silences as weapons. So they're a little different, but they are similar, not human entirely. Oh, and then during the battle, there's a part where Saban seemed to have the upper hand, and then I think they called him the Southern Jackal, the guy that was leading the army, was sitting there with all his men, and then they started like trying to shoot arrows at him, and the first volley missed, and the second volley hit one of his men, and they started laughing, and everyone ran away except for the Southern Jackal, and he also sat there actually filing his nails.
Well, I mean, he did hold Confess in captivity for a couple of years, so maybe that's where
And
that came from.
I think he got away, maybe. I don't remember
Uh,
the Southern Jackal dying in the battle, and it said that a bunch of them got away and ran their horses to death. Like they found horses strewn along the road for a long time. So some of the Phantom got away. I don't remember if the Southern Jackal did. And I guess he did.
I think we would have known if I think it's Scarus is his name, right?
I don't know if that is Scarus, actually.
No, I
I
thought
think
it was, but maybe I'm mistaken.
I'd have to look.
But I feel like it's something that they would have mentioned if he had gotten caught or if he'd been killed.
Oh, and
That
there was
that
another cool part. Right after the first like part of the battle happened and the Phantom kind of won. They cut off all the Northmen heads and they started throwing them over the line. And the Northmen just threw the heads back at them. And they're like, well, what the hell are these people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think that the ferocity with which the Norserai fight and the fanatism with which they attack the Kisharim, it really rattles the Phantom, and it kind of leads to them losing morale and eventually losing the battle because of that. Like they never recover from the destruction of the Kisharim, even if they maybe could have won because they had better tactics, because they still had the numbers. I mean, it's hard to tell, but it's kind of cool that the psychological effects play such a big part in the battle as well.
I think it was Satuus Satandra? Satandra?
Son of
Something.
Scaris.
Yeah. Scaris Abnelagen.
Okay, so it was Scaris. It was Scaris. I don't know. Is it Scaris?
The Padrija.
But he's important. That's he's
Okay.
the what is he, Grandy? No, is he the Pederaja? I
Yeah.
got lost in the titles.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. It's on page 131 on this edition, but yeah.
Right. The hardcover.
Oh, the
Right.
hardcover. Fancy.
Old. This is the one that's taped up. I told you.
Yeah, it's all beautiful.
It's been through it.
It's been loved.
At least 15 years.
Oh, he's the Sepetisha. Sepetisha? I don't know how to pronounce these names. I mean, the Inrithi names are hard enough. Then you add the Kianine to the mixture, and it's just it's too much.
A lot of names.
Yep. And since you don't get any perspectives of them, they're just even further away and more vague and hard to remember. I'm surprised. I never remembered Yalgrata's Rankhammer until I read the battle, and he was just all over in it, killing people. And I actually think I do. Maybe he stays around. Who knows? Still alive.
I mean, I read it yesterday, and I don't remember him. So.
Oh wow, yeah, I don't remember either. There's so many names.
There's also the part like they're when they were talking about the Topoi and how like they're like heights kinda. They also talk about how in Mangetta there was like a prophecy and it says the soul that encounters him passes no further. It's like a quote from the sagas. And basically means that the dead don't die where they all fought that battle.
Yeah, so I was about to mention is they said this is the worst place to die, and I think was it Saban who sees his own face when he's knocked down and he thinks it's his own body.
A lot of weird stuff happened to Saban during that battle. There was this. There's this scene where I think he's like on the ground and he's about to get killed, and then his groom comes and rescues him. And before they manage to get back to safety, the groom is shot in the back. And we know before we heard that like he's one of the people closest to him, closest to Saban, someone who's known him from since he was a baby. And then he dies, and before he dies, he tells Saban that all his life he's hated him, And
Yeah.
it's such a weird. I didn't really, and it's not clear if he's joking or if he's serious, and it's just something that only now that he knows he's going to die, he finally dares to tell Saban. It's unclear, but it's such a weird scene in the middle of this battle. I was wondering what you thought of that, because I was very confused by that whole subplot with the groom.
What'd you think, Daniel?
Afterwards, it definitely seemed to leak into Saban's psyche, trying to decipher whether it was. He first was like, "Oh, you tell a joke right when you die," and then afterwards, he's like, "Does everybody hate me? Even the closest person to me hated me." So he seems to be having the same struggle as you, trying to decide whether it was just really a joke.
Hmm. I thought it was a
But
joke at first, but I'm not sure.
I imagine he knows because he's known the guy his whole life. I think it said that the groom's like basically the one who taught him everything, is his father figure. So who knows? I'm sure it'll come up. I'm sure Saban will decipher the meaning eventually.
Yeah, probably
Well,
whatever works for him.
yeah, like you said,
Whatever's most convenient.
derive his own meaning.
And Kamian has a really bad time in the ruins because he's having really intense visions and nightmares.
Yeah, and essentially, eventually he decides to leave Lingera completely and move to the hills with Esmenet, where they basically play husband and wife for like a couple of days before they have to march again, which is kind of sweet. Like, I don't know, you kind of want them to be happy and enjoy some peaceful moments together, don't you?
Yeah, you guys didn't warn me this is a romance book. There's some, you know, it's yeah, kind of happy for you kind of root for them, because they have this weird thing going on.
Now that I read the Anna Smith Sparks book, it reminded me of their brief moment they had in the first book, where they're like, maybe we could just run away together.
Yeah, they can't though. I mean, it would never work out. Um, yeah, rooting for them though. I hope, but I'm rooting for them, but I don't expect it to work out very well for either of them. You're both getting really good at your poker faces. Letting me know if I'm onto something or not.
I had to put my hat down right there so you wouldn't see. Oh, and then we got a bird's eye view of the bird, and he says that Golgodaroth would approve that the Holy War prevailed over the Shishwarm, and that it kind of surprised him. So that kind of lets you know what side they're on currently, at least for this current situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems like the consult has some interest in the Holy War prevailing and possibly reaching Shaima. And there's also a a confirmation essentially that the Synthes is one of the Inkaroi. Is
The
it
old
there's this whole
names.
yeah the Synthes complains about uh men or the other races calling them Inkaroi, and thinks it's kind of an unfit description of their race or their species or whatever they are,
Yep.
which we don't know yet.
We just know that they're old. They're really, really old. I think even the skin spies. What did the skin spy say when he was fighting Kellis? Something about how they'd seen people just like Kellis, like tons of them over thousands of years. So he's insignificant to what they are. They're much more old and powerful than him. And it seems like they said that like age is the biggest advantage because they've been around and seen it all. So
I'm kind of glad that Kellis had, he had a few moments of uncertainty because he seemed a little bit too powerful there for a little bit. He can pull too many strings, and it is not as interesting if he's um, too powerful. At least not yet.
I mean, he did talk about before. He did talk about not understanding war, or like war being too complicated for him to calculate. So, like here, you kind of see him struggling. Like it's that it is. I mean, yeah, it's there's just too many unknowns and too many variables he has to take into account. So he's put in a situation where he essentially has to make educated guesses about which way things are going to go if he makes that decision or another. So yeah, he's not all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
yet he's not all powerful yet. He definitely wants to be though.
Yeah,
But
and it seems. Sorry.
he thinks his dad's the all powerful one. He's still struggling to catch up to his whatever his dad's achieved so far.
Yeah, and it seems that his plan for now is to use the influence he has over Saban to start recruiting followers, I guess would be best word to describe that.
Yeah, he befriended Saban's like favorite cousin in order to just have another close person to Saban on his inner circle. He's just trying to get all the advantages he can.
Yeah. And he does think about recruiting Confis, or yeah, he does consider recruiting Confis, but then it becomes very clear very early on that Confis is not going to be easily converted to a follower, because he's too cautious and too as intelligent also, but also just so self-centered that Callus is not really able to manipulate him with the flattery or revelations about his person, because Confus just doesn't care. Like he's already the god of his own universe.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, so he kind of has the same defense as Nair, just got there through a different way. They both have defenses from the Dunyan, they're just achieved differently.
Hmm.
But he still has to conquer them. He conquers everything. And
Yeah,
I think we
but
talked in the last chapter about how he didn't realize that that's kind of what Stairway was for Kellis and Nair, like a wedge in somehow. He'll get some other wedges soon, probably, or die
Maybe.
trying.
No, I'm not gonna say anything. Let's see how things evolve.
Fair enough. Um,
It made
yeah,
mention of the Heron spear again when it talked about the final battle with the No God, and because he died at Mangetta or whatever, where they are currently.
yeah. They talk about where the no god was struck down.
Yeah, and I mean we saw the no god die in one of the earlier chapters, I think, when Akamian dreams about the plains of Mangetta of the battle and the is it the Kyrenian great king throwing the heron spear and defeating the no god. So in some ways we've already been to Mangetta
Hmm.
before before this before this
And
moment.
when Akamian has that same dream in Mangetta, he wakes up and the No God is still screaming at him, asking him, what do you see? What am I? And that's why he decides that he probably better get away from the plains of Mangetta as soon as he can. Oh
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
it said
pretty.
about the topoi. It said like since so much death and what did it call it? So much trauma and suffering had happened there that it was like being on a steep cliff and getting vertigo. And that's what the dreams were, something like vertigo. Those weird feelings when you're sleeping in an insane asylum and you hear something walk on the floor. Some kind of weird vertigo-ish feeling.
But it's interesting that some people are reported not to dream. So Kels doesn't experience doesn't dream. Proaz doesn't have any dreams, and also Gothielk is he one of the no he's the leader of the
Duneri?
Stidoni, one of the two.
Yeah,
He's
Tidoni. That's right.
so at least those three people don't actually experience any dreams. I'd be curious to know why, if there is any particular reason. I don't think it's given in these chapters, but why do they dream? Why do other people wake up from nightmares and those guys these three are fine?
Hmm.
Just look for it while you read more, maybe.
Have to keep an eye on that.
Oh, there was also a part where Martimus was talking about like when he was younger and his teacher was asking him, telling him about the tusk and said it's connected to far bigger things. And Martimus asked him if he meant a mastodon. That part was funny, I thought. It was a good joke.
Yeah, it was adorable. It was actually a cute joke. A lot of the jokes that people tell in these books are,
Not innocent.
yeah, adult jokes to say the least.
The combat reminded me a little bit of Erickson's combat um, from the Malazan books that I've read. Um, Kind of like the top down, but I'm not sure if either of you noticed that or is it just me?
In parts, like the first battle with Nair fighting, it was like from Nair's perspective, so it was a little bit of that like a chaotic battle, more close to first person. And then after he got up to the hill, it zoomed out, and I feel like at least in some of Erickson's books, there were battles like that were kind of like first person in parts, and then it had to like zoom you away to show you what was going on. In this battle, first person, like when there's 200,000 people on the battlefield, first person wouldn't really show you anything. It'd just be cutting and hacking and cutting and hacking until someone said someone won, probably. So it's better to get that like perspective view where you see whole entire columns just get like swallowed by the army. Then he just briefly is like, oh, and their leader died. Someone else held back up their banner and then he died. And their banner never rose again.
Yeah, I think similar to Erickson, Baker puts a lot of focus on the logistics of the war, like the actual like positioning of the troops and their movements. He does focus a lot on that. But as you said, a lot of the battles in The Prince of Nothing are written from this like omniscient narrator's POV. Which I think Erickson takes a more like personal or like close third person narrative approach to his battles.
More like that first battle with Nair, where it was him getting betrayed and running away and then getting to Hill and describing what he's seen.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I do like the battle at Cayuth a lot more than this one. Just like I'm generally a disclaimer. I don't care too much for action in books or in other media. So I did like the Battle of Cayuth a lot more because it's much more personal and it's about so much more than the actual battle. Whereas the battle here, the battle at Mengera, it's like it felt like yes, it's also about other things, but a lot of the focus is on what's actually happening on the ground and on like the military strategy and there is less of the personal in this battle, I would say. Although you get a little bit of it with Saban, but I don't like Saban. He's just I'm not a fan, so I didn't care too much. Didn't care too much for him or what was happening to him.
You just went along with the nobody likes him theory. Nobody likes Saban. Not even his groom
Not even
liked him.
Saban.
Yeah. God might like
Yeah.
him though. He realizes that now. Maybe God likes Saban if no one else does.
No, I feel like I can remain pretty objective when it comes to most of the characters. But Soban, I mean, there are other reasons I don't like him, which you'll have to read and find out. But he's just so, he's just like, he feels, I don't know, it's like he feels like the world owes him something. And I don't think it does.
Out of all the characters in this book, all the terrible characters, Saban, poor Saban. Get your wrath.
Xerius seems a lot more less likable than him. I'd get drunk with Saban. He wouldn't be that bad to hang out with.
Well,
Xerius,
but Sirius is fun though.
Saban
He
is
always,
fun.
Sirius always makes me laugh.
Yeah,
Sabon,
it's
I
true.
don't know. Like he's Sabon's really unpredictable. Like you don't know if he's gonna change his mind in a second about something, and or if he's gonna have a breakdown all of a sudden. Uh, just not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah, I get it.
But I'm biased. I mean, I do realize that. That's my one. That's the one time I cannot really stay very objective in these books, I think.
Hashtag Team Saban. Yeah, and the other thing was they mentioned the horror. I think they I think it's this book they start mentioning the horror, and that's is it like time and fate, destiny? Is that kind of the, like the horror will smile upon you, kind of like destiny or fate?
Yep, pretty much the fate. I guess it's kind of it goes. It just tells you that the fate or that the future is it's fickle. It doesn't it doesn't favor one over the other.
Yep, that's
It'll
about right. It might even be a god to them, one of the hundreds, because there's a religion that worships a whole bunch of gods. Well, Inrao worshipped some little side god, right? I don't remember
yeah.
what his little side god was.
His was is it Oinkis or some? It starts with an
Yeah,
O.
yeah, there you go. You're right.
Something Oikis Oink. I don't know, something like that. But I feel like the god there might be a goddess of future or fate or something like that God mentioned earlier, but I do not remember.
I don't remember how many religions there were in this book. I think at least like seven. I think I could think of at least seven religions in this book.
It's quite a few. It's hard to, there's a lot to this world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is it's not something I paid much attention to on my first read. Like I basically just ignored all the like minor deities that get mentioned. But later when I started the second series, I realized they might not be as relevant as I thought they were.
Hmm.
Um,
As irrelevant, right? They might be
as
relevant.
they might be relevant. They yeah, exactly. Thanks for correcting me.
I'm still jealous you know three languages. Oh, I had one more quote. When men who knew little argued with men who knew nothing, tempers were certain to be thrown out of joint. This reminds me of my everyday life almost everywhere I go. Anytime I turn on the internet, certainly
So, do you consider yourself the man who knows little or the one man who knows nothing?
nothing. I know enough Buddhism to know I want to be the one who knows nothing instead of little. Because everything is something, but something is nothing.
Did you have any other notes, Katerina?
Let me see. I mean, I have a lot, but I think a lot of it's also not very important. Did we talk about the Scarlet Spires? We did a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Um, yeah, the fact that they decided to save their strength and not use it against the Kisharim right away. And also that I think something we didn't mention is that the plan to capture Kamian seems to be still underway,
Hmm.
even though Ayaka is Iokas, is that his name?
Yeah,
Has so Iokas has expressed some doubts.
yep,
He
and
seems pretty reasonable.
they said they had captured 13 other mandate in the past, but they'd never been able to get the Gnosis, their magic from them. And they seem to think that somehow the mandate are connected to the Sishwarin, and they really want to find out how. They're like
Yeah, and
100% sure that he's connected to the Sishwarin. Full belief of
and
that.
and we find out that the sorcerer who basically sold them or tried to sell them the information about Akamian is dead.
Tortured and in a shallow grave.
Yes. So the fact that he attacked Elizaris and tried to get the hell out of there when they first tried to make him stay and interrogate him, it seems in hindsight seems like it was a pretty reasonable decision on his part. Too bad it didn't work out for him.
Yeah,
He's always a messenger.
He knew the rules of Sorcerer Janan, I guess. It's not head bowing, but it's when you're gonna get killed and not kidnapped.
Yep. And one thing we did not mention is the fact that Comphis asked Martimus to become a spy for him, essentially, and to try to get into Callus's inner circle, which is kind of like the reverse of like sort of a reverse of what, or the same thing that Callus is trying to do. Like Callus is trying to win Comphis over. So Comphis decides to send Martimus to spy on Callus.
Yep, that did happen. How do we think that's gonna work out?
Well, I mean, from at least from Comphis's POV, Martimus seems pretty loyal, and is someone who isn't like it's someone who believes in the Empire and in the Emperor, and whose loyalty is unassailable. But I mean, that's what Comphis thinks, right? We haven't really seen into Martimus's head yet, so hard to tell.
And what about you, Steve? What do you think is gonna happen?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know.
This is new ground for you, finally. We're
Yeah,
in new ground.
Yeah, they're all so many different characters and angles, and so yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, we'll see then. How about this question? Is God real in this world? What do you think?
No comment.
I'm going to say yes. I don't know. I have no idea. If maybe there was a God and there, God is no longer around.
Because last book I asked you that, and you said that there hasn't been any proof, but now we're at least getting bones coming out of the ground. That's weird. Maybe God's not real, but the earth has a soul itself.
Seems
Something.
like it. Something. I keep hearing how mind blowing the third book is, so we'll see. Is it the third book or the second trilogy? I forget. Anyway, one of them.
The second trilogy goes places that no other book will ever go, for sure.
I actually have a question for Steve as well.
Uh-oh. We're in trouble already.
No, I'm just curious because it's something that I found maybe puzzling when I read the trilogy for the first time. Who are you? Are you rooting for someone in the Holy War? Like we've only been following one side, obviously, but like what do you think, or where do you stand? Who is like, who do you think is in the right, or is there anyone in the right at all? I'm curious to know like how you feel about that.
doesn't seem like anyone's really in the right. Um, everyone has their own um, goals. I feel like I should be rooting for Kellis, but I can't. He's just so he feels really like a robot, so it's hard to attach to him because it's hard to connect with him. I feel like I should be rooting for a Kamian because he seems like fairly harmless and like a decent fellow, but we know that he survives at least after this holy war, right? Because the quotes in the beginning of the chapters, so he lives for a little bit longer at least. I
Yeah.
find myself rooting for Esminet and for Surway more than I do the other characters.
The
Cool.
true
And
innocence.
Hmm?
The true innocence,
Yeah,
seemingly.
I kind of root for them to find peace and happiness, but the rest of them, I like Noir. I kind of it's hard to like
yeah.
some of these characters, but I mean I enjoy reading them and I enjoy following the story. But as far as like who I'm rooting for, that's a tough one because there's so many
Yeah.
horrible characters.
Yeah, I was maybe thinking more from the angle, like from the religious angle, because you
Mm,
have like at least like very superficially, it is the war is between the Phantom and the Enrithi, and like all the characters that we follow are Enrithi. Yeah,
mm.
basically. Um, and we haven't actually gotten a perspective from the Phantom. So maybe I was thinking about it in those terms.
I'm pretty convinced the Phantom's going to win. I think we had talked about that a little bit. Was it last week or the week
Poker
before?
face, poker face.
Yeah.
There was a part like after this battle where the all the holy war people like swept into the camp and they murdered all the slaves and raped all the women and just like did all the worst things that humans can do,
Yeah,
which
it
is
is.
what happened in the Crusades, right? Like
Hmm.
you're fighting for the good side, but you still do the bad things.
A good side in quotes.
In real life, our Scott Baker alludes to what he calls the magical belief lottery a lot, meaning like currently, if you won the magical belief lottery, you would be like a white male in America who's Christian, because then you have like all the best magical belief traits
Hmm.
in the current world. But they change over time. They're always changing.
Yeah, always evolving. Maybe the
And
Phantom will win the lottery.
and when you're born, you're always believing what your parents believe, kind of. You don't think they're wrong ever. Religion's real tricky to me. I
Yeah.
just feel bad for all of them who hate each other over just the religion. Same with all these people in this holy war. I just feel bad for all of them.
Yeah, I mean it's the part where where it gets mentioned that they raid the camp and slaughter everyone or like violate everyone. I found that really powerful, especially because you spend this entire battle on the side, like well, most of it on the side of the Inrithi, and you kind of can't help but root for them, and then they win, and you're like, yay, and then they go and just do this, which puts things back into a perspective.
And it's maybe because it's fresh, but it did remind me a lot of Empires of Dust. I won't say too much, so I won't spoil it for anyone. But that conflicting, you want to root for certain people or certain groups, and then they do really terrible things after. So, kind of, I can see where that comparison comes from. The farther we get into Prince of Nothing.
Yeah, there are definitely some perils. Um, my last note says I counted two death came swirling down lines.
What was the line? Death.
Death came swirling down.
Oh.
When Sarsalis died, death came swirling down, and
Hmm.
someone else, I don't remember. I think that is a line out of the Iliad, if I'm right, or the other one. What's the other one
The
called?
Odyssey.
Yeah, one
Oh.
of the to Beowulf. It's one of those really old fantasy books.
Yeah, I'm not sure where exactly it originates, but it is a recurrent thing in Baker's books. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it.
It is true. There's a lot of swirling death.
Yes, there is, and just a lot of death in general.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what, just for anyone listening who's reading along with us, I was looking at the pages. It looks like, did you guys want to do 9 through 13? It's about 108 pages, or did you want to do 9 through 12?
Let me see. Um, I can't
Yes.
remember
I just say yes.
where I need to look which one is chapter 14, because there are two chapters that essentially are like happen right one after the other.
Hmm.
But I don't remember if it was 12 or 13.
Oh, it's 14 and 15. They're named the same. So I'm assuming those two are, they're both named Amarat and
Yeah,
Barat.
that should be those should be probably. I think there's like a cliffhanger at the end of the first one, so
Oh, okay.
I guess
So if we
let's.
did go to 13, then we would do all of them at once, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So then, or we can do, yeah, we can do either do 9 through 12 or uh, 9 through 13. I'm good with either one. Whatever's easier for you guys.
I guess
If we
either works for me.
if we do, oh, just looking at the pages. If we do 9 through 13, the following week would be about 60, almost 70, 70 pages for the finish the part two. So either way.
Let's do I don't know. Maybe let's do the first four. Or no, wait, it's how long are the first five chapters? Or like chapter 9 through 13?
9 through 13 is 108 pages.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's doable. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Or you're the only one with self control, so that's why I have to ask you, because you're the reasonable person in this group. So I have to see what you think.
Okay. Yes, but I'm also terrible at making decisions, so.
Me too. That's why I said yes.
Yeah, because I'll yeah. So yeah, we can do that. 9 through 13.
Sounds good.
Right.
As long as
So-
as long as I don't have to make the decision, I'm good.
Not too bad. So cool. Anyone listening, anyone reading along, listening, then about 100 pages or so for the next week. So, and let us know if you are listening and reading along with us, because I'm curious if anyone's doing that. I think it'd be fun. So, I've had a couple people tell me that they listen while they read, but I wasn't sure if they were just BSing me or they were serious. So,
At least for the first book, right?
yeah. So cool. Another fun Friday, another fun discussion. So thanks to both of you for making time. Katerina, thank you for staying up late with us.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Daniel, thanks for taking time out of your Fridays.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Look
of course.
forward to next week.
We'll do it all over again. we're chipping away at it. But it's a nice pace. I think it's there's so much that happens because I finishing this section. I thought this may not take very long because there's not like a ton that happens. But then we sit down, we talk about it, and an hour and a half later, here we are talking about it still.
Oh,
So,
it has it been an hour and a half? Wow, it flew by.
yeah, it flies by. Well, an hour and 20 minutes, but Cool. Well, we'll see everyone next week, or you'll hear us next week. Everyone have a great weekend.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah.